Okay, think about a place you hold sacred. A central spot for your deepest beliefs, maybe a land just brimming with potential, with promise.
Yeah, a real promised land idea.
Exactly. Now imagine that dream just shattering, like astonishingly fast. That's
Hmm.
kind of the jolt, the reality that hit members of the church in Independence, Missouri back in the 1830s.
It really was. It was this moment charged with so much expectation. Their understanding of Zion, well, it pointed right to Independence as the pivotal location,
The main spot.
the main spot, yeah. A gathering place directly tied to their hopes for the second coming. So they arrived with just profound faith, totally ready to build something, well, extraordinary.
And that quick shift, from all that hope to sudden hardship, that's exactly what we're digging into today. We're going to explore the really intense challenges these early saints faced in Missouri, specifically in 1833. And our focus isn't just recounting the events, but really understanding the core principles of guidance they got during that upheaval.
Which came through Doctrine and Covenants sections 98 through 101.
Exactly.
Those sections.
And to really get our bearings, we're looking at excerpts from this week's Come Follow Me study guide. It gives some really insightful context around those specific scriptural sections.
That's helpful.
And, it's also useful to keep in mind that artwork, Saints Driven from Jackson County, Missouri by CCA Christensen.
Oh, yeah. Powerful image.
It really is. It's just a stark visual reminder of the very real human suffering involved in all this.
So what we really want to pull out of this deep dive for you, the listener, are those timeless lessons. Those nuggets of wisdom about finding peace, staying encouraged, and really understanding how we can navigate our own tough times today.
Because the parallels are there, aren't they? When you look at what they went through, you see echoes of struggles people face now.
Absolutely. And that promise in Doctrine and Covenants 98, verse 3, that even our everyday difficulties can ultimately work together for our good. That's a really powerful thread we're going to follow.
So where did things start to unravel? How did that initial optimism fade?
Well, the arrival in Independence, it was genuinely optimistic. I mean, this wasn't just another frontier town for them. It was the center place of Zion.
Right, capital Z.
Capital Z, exactly.
Yeah.
And Zion wasn't merely, a spot on a map. It represented their ideal of a righteous community, the anticipated focal point for Christ's return.
So the spiritual significance was huge.
Immense. This vision of a perfect future, it made the loss that came later all the more devastating. But this influx of people with different beliefs, different social structures, it quickly created friction with the folks already living there.
And it wasn't just like a quiet disagreement, was it? The sources point to active opposition.
Oh, definitely.
The existing neighbors, they weren't really on board with this idea that God had somehow designated this land specifically for the saints.
No, and you can kind of see their perspective too, right? Suddenly there's this surge of unfamiliar people.
Right. Potentially shifting political power, messing with the local economy, social norms.
Exactly. It was more than just a theological difference. It was about real, tangible community anxieties coming to a head.
Which is a good reminder, actually. Even faith-based movements can run into these very real-world social and political challenges.
Absolutely. And those anxieties, unfortunately, they escalated fast. And with alarming speed, the situation just deteriorated into genuine persecution, even acts of violence.
Like what specifically?
Well, a key moment was the destruction of the church's printing office in 1833.
Wow.
Think about that. An attack on their ability to communicate, to share their very beliefs.
That's fundamental.
It really is. This early assault on, the free flow of information, it just underscores how powerful information is and the drastic measures some people will take to suppress voices they don't like. It's kind of a reminder for us today, isn't it?
Yeah, to think critically about what we consume and value free expression.
Even when we really disagree with the ideas.
And it didn't stop there, did it, with the printing press?
No, sadly not. It got worse. The saints were forcibly expelled from their homes.
Can you even picture that? Just being driven out because of what you believe?
It's brutal. And what's also striking is the distance involved. Joseph Smith was hundreds and hundreds of miles away in Kirtland.
Yeah.
Over 800 miles.
Right. And news didn't exactly travel instantly back then?
Not at all. So while all this was unfolding, there was this significant lag in communication. Any potential response from church leadership, it just highlights the isolation they must have felt, the vulnerability.
Yeah, totally exposed.
Precisely.
Yeah.
But while the prophet couldn't immediately be there physically, these very sections of the Doctrine and Covenants we're talking about, 98 through 101, They reveal that the Lord was acutely aware of their suffering.
So he knew.
He knew. And these weren't just passive observations in the scriptures. They were vital principles of peace, essential encouragement given during a really, really dark time, like a spiritual lifeline, offering guidance when earthly help felt so far away.
Which brings us to, I think, the crucial question for us today. How do we take these intense historical trials and find relevance in our own lives? Because our trials look different, maybe.
Often they do. And the study guide wisely points out that the challenges we face, they often stem from different sources,
Yeah.
right? Sometimes it's our own choices.
Yeah.
Sometimes it's the actions of others.
Which can be really hard.
Yeah. And sometimes it's just the inherent difficulties of being mortal
Life.
happens.
That's a really helpful way to frame it. Okay, so let's take that first one, trials that come from our personal choices.
Right. Doctrine and Covenants 98, verses 11 and 12, and then section 101, verses 1 through 9, they offer some really profound insights here.
What stands out to you there?
Well, what strikes me across those passages is this underlying message of divine patience and a really focus on our growth, even when we stumble.
Okay.
It suggests that when we face consequences from our own missteps, the emphasis isn't really on condemnation, but more on, learning and moving forward. What resonates with you when you think about those verses and personal accountability?
For me, it's that sense of unwavering divine support, even when we totally mess up. It's not like you're punished and just left there to flounder. There's always a path back, it feels like, a chance to learn, to improve. The promises linked to repentance, seeking forgiveness, they're incredibly comforting. It really makes you think about what God actually wants us to do when we realize we've gone off track.
Exactly. Okay, now let's shift focus. What about trials that result from the choices of others?
This is a tough one.
It is. And here, the tone in the revealed word, it kind of shifts. It becomes more about comfort and the need for resilience. So Doctrine and Covenants 98, verses 1 through 3 and verse 22, and then section 101, verses 10 through 16 and verse 22 again, they offer significant solace here.
And this feels particularly important when we confront really difficult situations like abuse or bullying or violence, painful things that unfortunately still exist.
Very much so. And it's powerful how directly the study guide tackles these sensitive areas. It even points to resources like the abuse topic in the Gospel Library.
Yeah, that's good they include that.
It underscores that the Lord understands the deep pain caused by other people's actions, and that our fundamental response, ideally, should be to place our trust in Him during these profoundly unfair times.
But what does that practically mean, though? To trust in the Lord when you're facing harm from someone else, that's such a hard concept when you're in it.
It is hard, and I think it's a process, right? It involves acknowledging our vulnerability, maybe our anger or fear, but simultaneously trying to recognize God's ultimate power and justice. It doesn't mean we just passively accept harmful behavior,
No, definitely not.
but rather that we seek His guidance on how to navigate these incredibly challenging situations, which, by the way, often includes seeking appropriate help, setting boundaries, making sure we're safe.
Perfect.
The scriptures here, they provide like a spiritual anchor, a source of strength, maybe perspective, right in the middle of the turmoil.
Okay. Then the third category, trials that just come with the difficulties of mortality.
Yeah, the stuff that happens to everyone, eventually. Unexpected illnesses, natural disasters, just the general ups and downs of life.
Yeah, right. So Doctrine and Covenants 98 again, verses 1 through 3, and section 101, verses 22 through 31 and verse 36. These offer a different kind of lens, maybe?
I think so. It feels less about assigning blame either to ourselves or others, and more about understanding the actual nature of this earthly journey.
So what stands out to you in these verses about how we should approach these, let's say, more universal struggles?
What's particularly insightful, I think, is how these verses encourage us to actively look for the lessons. Like, what are we learning about our own resilience? How is our dependence on God maybe being strengthened? In what specific ways are we actually seeking His help? And maybe crucially, can we recognize His hand in our lives, even when things are really hard?
And this all circles back to that really powerful promise in Doctrine and Covenants 98, verse 3, about God making all things wherewith you have been afflicted work together for your good, which, let's be honest, can feel almost impossible to believe when you're right in the thick of something awful.
Oh, absolutely. It's a statement of faith, isn't it? Elder Anthony D. Perkins' message, "Remember thy suffering saints, O our God," shed some valuable light on this.
How so?
He encourages us to consider how the Savior Himself invites us to view our challenges, not just as these insurmountable obstacles, but as potential catalysts for growth, for refinement, Opportunities to fulfill divine purposes we might not even see at the time.
Have you ever personally experienced that, looking back on something hard and seeing good come from it eventually?
I think most people have, if they look closely, though it's often much later. It's usually only in hindsight. You can see those connections, how maybe you grew or learned something essential.
Yeah. The study guide also points us to other helpful places like Romans 8.28, 2 Nephi 2.2.
And Elder Christofferson's talk, Come to Zion, even those short videos on the church website, like The Refiner's Fire.
Right. It's all about trying to broaden our perspective, isn't it? Seeing things through a more, well, eternal lens, maybe.
I think that's the goal. Okay, shifting gears slightly. That desire for peace, it's fundamental, right? Especially when we feel surrounded by conflict, whether it's internal or external.
Definitely. And President Russell M. Nelson's powerful encouragement for us to end personal conflicts, it really resonates with the principles we find right here in Doctrine and Covenants 98, specifically verses 23 through 48.
Such a direct call to action from him, isn't it? Followers of Jesus Christ should set the example for all the world to follow.
Yeah. Wow. Now, okay, maybe not every single verse in that specific D&C section directly addresses, like, arguing with your neighbor.
Right, some are about broader conflicts, even warfare.
But there are definitely overarching principles in there that can guide us in resolving disagreements and just cultivating more peace in our own interactions. What key principles do you see there that really stand out for like everyday personal conflict?
Well, the emphasis on patience, for one, on being slow to anger, on avoiding retaliation. Those are huge.
Yeah, easier said than done sometimes.
Oh, absolutely. But it's about consciously choosing that higher, more Christ-like path, even when your immediate gut reaction might be to defend yourself or, lash out.
Right.
And the suggestion in the guide to reflect on the hymn, Truth, reflects upon our senses, which talks about truth and peace and forgiveness. That adds a really beautiful practical dimension to this whole idea.
That's a good connection. Okay, so sections 99 and 100 in the Doctrine and Covenants, they offer a slightly different angle, right? Highlighting the Lord's personal concern for people actively doing his work, even when they're carrying big personal burdens.
Especially anxieties about their families, which comes through really strongly.
Yeah.
These revelations were specifically given to individuals, leaders back then, who had really weighty church responsibilities during that tough early period.
So what do these sections tell us about how the Lord views people who are trying to serve him, maybe making sacrifices?
It really underscores that God sees us as whole individuals, not just, cogs in some larger machine. He's aware of our personal concerns, our worries about our loved ones, even as we're dedicating time and energy to his purposes.
That's comforting.
It is. And the study guide prompts us to think, okay, what messages of comfort and reassurance might those early leaders have found in these verses? And then, maybe more importantly, turn it inward. What personal messages might the Lord have for us in these same sections, given our own responsibilities and worries today?
And those Revelations in Context articles they mentioned about John Murdoch's missions, the mission to Canada, they really bring that historical reality to life, don't they?
They really do. You get a glimpse of the personal sacrifices involved, the sheer faith these early servants had. It just reinforces this idea that God is intimately aware of our individual circumstances, even as we're trying our best to follow his direction.
Okay, then we come to that parable in Doctrine and Covenants 101, verses 43 through 62.
Yes, the parable of the nobleman and the vineyard.
It's really thought-provoking, maybe even a little uncomfortable. It's presented as an analogy that helps explain why the Lord allowed the saints to be driven out of Zion.
Right. It uses that familiar imagery. A nobleman, his vineyard, and the actions or inactions of his various servants. What's your initial takeaway when you read that parable?
Well, it definitely feels like a mirror being held up, to our own actions and attitudes. As you read about the different servants and how they cared or maybe didn't care for the vineyard, the study guide encourages us to really reflect, like, do we see any of those same tendencies in ourselves? Are we always diligent in following the Lord's instructions? Are we truly acting in line with his overall plan for his vineyard?
And what does the vineyard represent here? Zion, the church.
Yeah, essentially Zion or the church, his kingdom. Are we building it up according to his will?
And that leads us pretty directly to that really pivotal question posed right after the parable
Yeah.
in verses 63 through 65. How do we as individuals truly demonstrate to God that we are willing to be guided in a right and proper way for our salvation?
That's a big question.
It is, and it implies it's more than just saying we are willing, right? It's about consistently showing that willingness. through our actions, our obedience to his counsel, our commitment to his work.
Okay. Finally, the study guide offers some really helpful, simple ways to teach these principles to children. And I think these points offer valuable insights for all of us, actually, regardless of age or whether we have kids around.
Absolutely. Simple truths are often the most profound. For example, looking at Doctrine and Covenants 98, verses 1 through 3 again.
Yeah.
It suggests just having a conversation about common challenges children face, maybe feeling left out or struggling with homework, whatever it is, and then focusing on the idea that Jesus Christ can actually help turn those difficulties into blessings somehow.
And sharing personal stories helps
Yeah.
there, right? How our own hardships maybe led to something positive eventually. That can be really impactful no matter who you're talking to.
Definitely. Yeah, with Doctrine and Covenants 98, verses 39 and 40, the focus is so clearly on the Savior's help in learning to forgive others.
Which is huge for kids and adults.
Huge for everyone. And it's a vital message to teach children that while forgiveness is essential, they should always feel safe to tell a trusted adult if someone is hurting them. Forgiveness doesn't mean enabling harm.
That's a crucial distinction. And using the stories of the saints in Missouri, maybe from the Doctrine and Covenants Stories book, can make those historical experiences more relatable for them.
Yeah, connecting it back. And the suggestion of using simple visual aids like happy and sad faces to explore different responses to unkindness, that's so effective.
Why do you think?
Well, it reinforces that powerful idea that choosing to forgive, even when it feels incredibly hard, ultimately leads to greater inner peace for us. It's a choice we make for our own well-being, guided by the Savior's example.
And lastly, regarding Doctrine and Covenants 101, verses 16 and then 23 through 32, the emphasis there seems to be on the sense of peace that comes through Jesus Christ.
Yes, connecting that quiet feeling we can sometimes have when we're really thinking about him, maybe during prayer or while taking the sacrament, and connecting that feeling to a deeper sense of peace is such a valuable takeaway.
And simple things help, like singing reverent songs or focusing on the joyful parts of the second coming described in those verses. It can offer comfort and hope, especially when things feel challenging.
Exactly. So as we kind of wrap up this deep dive, it seems really clear that the initial hopes and then the subsequent hardships the early saints faced in Missouri, they hold these profound, enduring lessons for us.
Yeah. Lessons about what? Faith, resilience.
Definitely faith when facing adversity, the inner strength that comes from resilience, the divine direction that's available when we genuinely seek peace, and that constant, unwavering care the Lord has for those who are trying, truly striving to follow him.
And maybe most importantly, that overarching truth, that promise we keep coming back to from the Doctrine and Covenants, that even our most difficult experiences have the potential to ultimately work together for our good.
Right? These principles we've explored from sections 98 through 101, they aren't just, dusty historical accounts. They feel like timeless truths that speak directly to the trials, and maybe the triumphs too, that we encounter in our lives right now.
So maybe a final thought for you, the listener, as you move forward.
Yeah, we encourage you to take a moment, maybe later today or this week, to reflect on a personal challenge, something you've navigated in the past, or maybe something you're facing right now.
And consider which of the principles we've discussed today, maybe finding inner peace or trusting in God's guidance, or that potential for good to emerge even from difficulty, which of those might offer you a fresh perspective, or maybe a renewed source of strength.
Think about how even those seemingly negative experiences might, in the long run, actually be contributing to your personal growth, your understanding, your journey.
And as you do that reflecting, maybe call to mind that image again, that CCA Christensen painting, Saints Driven from Jackson County, Missouri. Let it serve as a powerful reminder of the very real human element behind these scriptures, the enduring power of faith and resilience and hope right in the face of significant adversity.
Yeah, exploring resources like that painting or the context articles, it can really deepen our connection to these sacred stories and the people who live them.
Be still, my child, the storm may rage, but I have seen each tear you've cried. Though you are pressed and cast away, you have not wandered from my side. They rise against you full of fear, but I am just and I am near. Your sorrow is not lost on me. I shape your trials tenderly. Be still and know that I am God. I've walked the road that you now trod. Though all the world may cast you down, in me you'll rise and wear a crown. Each hurt will work for good in time. You're held within a hand divine. The land you love, the dreams undone, still shine beneath the rising sun. My Zion yet will bloom and grow. The seeds you plant I surely know. Forgive the hand that strikes with hate, and let my peace replace their weight. You are not weak to love and yield. It's strength to stand with sword unsealed. Be still and know that I am God. I've walked the road that you now trod. Though all the world may cast you down, in me you'll rise and wear a crown. Each hurt will work for good in time. You're held within a hand divine. I see your pain, I count the cost. Not one small thing will end in loss. I gather every weary prayer. You are my child, I'm always there. Be still and know that I am God. You'll find me in the chastening rod. In fire and wind I shape your soul. My work in you will make you whole. Endure, forgive, and trust.